My name is Katelyn Wright. I'm a land use planner for the City of Syracuse, New York's Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. And for the past 15 months, I've been assigned to the creation and implementation of our first land bank there. It's a joint effort with the City of Syracuse and Onondaga County, designed to take control of vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties, assemble them, redevelop them, return them to productive use. The value of creating a land bank for us in Syracuse is that we can kind of marry the city's and the county's fiscal responsibilities with our community development and planning objectives. And in the past, we've been doing tax auctions and tax lien sales and any number of things to carry out our collection responsibilities that have exacerbated what we're trying to do on the community development and revitalization side. And so with the land bank, we get to combine these two tools and make sure that our tax collection efforts are being supportive of community revitalization, primarily because we will take title to the tax foreclosed properties and put them in this entity, the land bank, whose job is to make sure that they're responsibly redeveloped. And the land bank gives us control over the disposition and redevelopment of these properties in a way we've never had before. Is that the land bank isn't going to be a silver bullet that will solve all of your problems. You need to do a lot of data analysis up front to define what your problems are. In Syracuse, half of our vacant buildings are paying their taxes, so we're developing complementary strategies that will work with the land bank to help us gain control of those properties. So I would say that knowing the problem and doing a lot of data analysis up front is critical to the success of an effort like this, and having strong collaborations with other city departments, for us, code enforcement, law, finance, getting all the right people around the table. Again, something that seems obvious, but you need a lot of partners to be able to succeed and to address all of the moving pieces that surround the condition of property, its tax status, and our ability to acquire it. In New York, the land banks get their power from the Land Bank Act, which is part of our not-for-profit corporation law. And they're also bound to follow New York Public Authority's Accountability Act. So there's a lot of reporting requirements and transparency requirements there. And the basic powers to buy, sell, lease property, et cetera, that all comes from those two acts. And our powers can be further limited by the local legislation that creates the land bank. You either have to have an ordinance from your city or county or individual municipality, or an intergovernmental agreement if you have more than one participating. And in Syracuse, we have the city and the county. So we have an intermunicipal agreement that further defines what the powers of the land bank are. We were really fortunate that they chose not to place any additional limitations above and beyond what's already in the Land Bank Act. They wanted to have maximum flexibility, which I think is important because we're just learning how this process is going to work, and we don't know every situation that the land bank will encounter yet. But they did add a few additional reporting requirements, which I think are valuable to bring transparency to the process. That said, all of the powers to lease, buy, sell property, redevelop, reconstruct, demolish, and all the things that the land bank can do, that doesn't answer the questions about how are you going to pay for it, and which properties are you going to acquire, and do you have priorities for disposing of them. And so I would say at the outset, it's critical to define the powers, and that all comes from ordinances and legislation. But it's really critical to take those elected officials and include them in the conversation about how you're going to pay for it and what your targets of opportunity are, how many properties will you acquire and where, and what will you be doing with them. Having that all spelled out up front as early as possible, and certainly memorialized on paper so that a year from now we all have common expectations against which to judge the land bank's performance. That's important, and it goes above and beyond the land bank's powers. Well, we're fortunate to have a relatively recent and thorough comprehensive plan in the city of Syracuse. So our goals for neighborhood revitalization are already pretty clearly spelled out. And we've experienced a lot of population loss over the years, so we have some neighborhoods that have significantly higher vacancy rates than others. And our objectives in those neighborhoods or in those blocks may be different than in a transitional block where an investment in one property can make a significant difference. So knowing that our goals would be different in different parts of the city is something that was already defined by our comprehensive plan pretty well. And then we worked with a Citizens Advisory Board. This is an independent group of folks that are supposed to be kind of the boots on the ground, neighborhood residents impacted by the land bank's work. And this body met with city planning over a period of several months and went through the comprehensive plan's goals and looked at what the land bank's powers are and we had already come up with a scheme for which properties would be foreclosed on, and I'll talk about that in a second. But so we know goals, powers, potential inventory, and we worked with them to come up with policies that could dictate what the land bank would do with those properties to reach the city's already defined goals in the comp plan. So based on the location and the conditions of the surrounding neighborhood, the type of property, whether it's a vacant land, vacant building, occupied building, and the property's condition, those three factors will really dictate what the land bank does in terms of redevelopment. Now, the bigger question is where and how much is the land bank redeveloping? And in Syracuse, we chose to start being much more aggressive with our tax collection efforts. In the past, we've used auctions, we've used lien sales. None of those things have been able to address the massive scale of the problem we're facing. We have about 1,800 vacant buildings in the city and 3,500 vacant lots. And those are what we initially thought of as the problem properties. But 50% of our tax delinquent inventory are occupied buildings, usually poorly maintained. So that's another set of problems that require different strategies and hadn't really been what we were pushing at the outset for why we needed a land bank, but the land bank will be a tool for us to take those largely under-maintained rental properties and put them into the hands of responsible landlords. So because we're addressing a large scope of properties and not just a targeted effort in one single neighborhood, they needed kind of a flexible set of policies that basically provides a decision tree to the land bank.